Welcome to the swamp, where it's time to slay Gaiju-sized monsters. I'm someone who is a huge Monster Hunter fan. I've been playing since Freedom Unite, and have played almost every Western release game, with hundreds upon hundreds of hours. The release of WILDS has had me hyped, with this being my most anticipated game of the year, but is it any good? Strap in and let's check out Monster Hunter WILDS. But first, just so you all know, at the end of the initial review, I will go over my brief thoughts on the various monster fights, as well as my personal opinions on the game as a Monster Hunter fan. My name is Excalligator. I rate games based on many categories that would fit into most survival games, based on a 1 to 5 system. If a category does not apply, it will not affect the game's overall score. Now let us get started. Monster Hunter is a franchise where you, as a human in a world of massive creatures, grab hold of a massive anime-sized weapon and go head-to-head with them, but it's not always hack and slash. Preparation, utilizing the environment, is also a key, and with this new entry, the world is larger than ever, with more environmental hazards as well as utility. So theoretically, this game should be able to run on a middle-of-the-road computer. However, people with above-average rigs, like me, I've heard of some even stronger rigs having issues with graphical issues as well as frame rates and others. This can also apply for the consoles, as the reviews I've seen, the same issues can happen on the consoles, though they are to a lesser degree and not as often. I stand by my claim that Monster Hunter World has the best character creator ever, and for the most part, it's the same here. It is the most advanced creator I've seen. You can make almost literally any character you want. You can even put highlights in your hair of any color, tattoos, scars, makeup, and you can change how it is from rotating it, changing its size, even mirroring it to have two, which is what I did for my head tattoos. You can even have heterochromia if you wanted to, which is what my character on the PlayStation 4 copy of World has. Regardless, I made my OC as I always do, and I wish his mohawk could be slicked back instead of straight up, but I'll live. You can do a lot with even your palico. I don't go too hard on it, as myself I just want one that looks like a bobcat, but I've seen some that look like Pikachu and even Stitch, and Okami. Now, a bit into the story progression, you will eventually unlock the ability to customize your secret as well, and your camps. Which, if you don't know, the secret is the mount for your game. I decided to make mine black and red, while my friends are all matching their characters' hair colors, being mostly pink. For this section, it is no debate that it will be a 5 out of 5 for the expanse options you have for all of your characters. Now, the start of WILDS is a bit odd. While in World, you are still placed in a set piece, you have control while you are taught the controls of the game. In WILDS, it is fully on rails, with little to no control, though the set pieces that you are thrown into are very cool. Once you are out of the initial chase scene, you are given the option to choose your weapon, practice a bit, get thrown into your first monster fight. Definitely faster than World's intro, and you didn't need to kill a bunch of small animals or collect mushrooms first like previous generations, which is an improvement from older entries. Now, I will say that even if you chose the settings to turn off the tutorial showing more than once, they will continue to spam for the first several quests that you embark on. It is the worst for the first 2 quests. Eventually, they will relax down. Once you get to the first town and complete a few more quests, you unlock the ability to play with other players, though I do have an issue about that, which I'll talk to you about later. For now, I'm going to rate the intro a 4 out of 5. I dropped it a point because of how on rails it felt, and the spamming of the tutorials, which got quite annoying, getting myself and my friend to curse and yell at the game, telling it to shut up, but I digress. The exploration of the game is very good. Similar to World, the maps are now open to explore and not load-in zones. While I had my concerns back in the day with no load-ins, considering they were a great way to break from the fight to heal without the monsters getting to you, World handled it with various quality of life improvements to the overall game designs. That carried on here, but with a twist. Now villages or camps will be a part of the various maps, so you can enter them at any time. Not only that, there are paths and corners of the biomes that lead to the other biomes. This has been a desire since World has blended the biomes along with the borders beautifully, seeing parts of the Rotten Vale in the highlands to the forest area in the desert, but you looked upon the gates of Astera and you were never allowed to enter with just pulling up. You had to get up your map and fast travel there. It has been a dream of mine since Monster Hunter Tri, seeing Moga Village from the island, but never able to just walk there. Now you can. Though I will say that I am severely disappointed with the ice biome. I couldn't say why without mild spoilers to why the region looks like it does. It is not at all like Hoarfrost Reach or any of the other ice biomes that we're used to, which I would have preferred. Now, most of the biomes will have a village that belongs to one of the local tribes, as well as a campsite made by the guild. You can also have pop-up camps that act like campsites in the world, but you have kind of a choice of where to put them, and also that they could be destroyed if they are within range of a monster's territory. I also don't really see a point to them. I don't think I've used the pop-up camp once, but if you want it, there you go. Speaking of monsters, large monsters can gather in greater numbers and have multiple of the same one roam around. At times, you can even have packs of the more social monsters. Various biomes will also have different seasons. You will have a drought period, a storm, and a plentiful season. When it is the drought season, everything will look dull, less herbivores will be around, more predators will roam, and there are less resources. However, during the plenty season, you will have vibrant colors, more herbivores that roam, more endemic life, and more resources that can vary. The storms will vary from biomes, as the desert has a thunderous sandstorm, the forest has torrential rain, the oil well will have wildfires, and the snow biome will have a blizzard. There is also another biome which is a bit more unique, but I'll save that for the spoiler section. Each of these storms will limit your field of vision. Less creatures will be around. The environmental hazards will be greater, but also the biome's apex predators will have a more likely chance to spawn. Now down to both pro and con. The secret mount. Why do I say this is a con? Well, it's more or less that they are required. Well, not required to gunpoint. You will be severely disadvantaged without using them. The maps are so large, you can't get anywhere quickly. If you play solo and choose not to use one, go for it. But if you're playing with other players, you will not only slow them down if you don't also use the mount also does provide some benefits that I like, besides travel speed, but also some quality of life that I think was too much. But for one, I like having a second weapon stored, so I can switch out my various elemental weapons for different fights. You can also sharpen your weapon and drink potions on the go. They are also now considered your blue quest item box for quest items like med potions. They can also travel across shortcuts that the normal human characters cannot traverse without them. While I don't mind using the mobility between the areas like chasing a monster to rebuff, sharpen, and heal, I don't like the fact that you can use them at any time in the fight. I find it a bit cheesy because then you could just call your bird to save you without worrying of the monster hitting you while you do everything from your speedy mount, which is why I don't ever use the secret in the middle of the fight. I would have also made it a negative point about the controls of the secret, as I hated how on rails they were, but luckily in the options menu, you can turn off the secret functions and make movement to manual with no auto tracking, unless you toggle it. So you can control them like any other mount in any other game, which is much better like this, and I would highly recommend everyone doing it. But yes, all in all, I'm going to rate the exploration a 4.5 out of 5, a small point off for the almost mandatory nature of the secret. I like them, I just don't like how pretty much required they are, and would have liked it better if they were optional. Also, I don't like the fact that you could cheese fights with them. While not a survival game per se, I'm going to use this section to discuss things like gathering, quality of life, and player progression. Gathering is made much faster now, not only because you can hook it from afar while mounted on your secret, but also gathering items in general is much faster. Like mining, for an example, you still need to stop and harvest it, you can't gather it on the go like an herb, but instead of 1, 2, 3 hitting for looting, you can now hit it once and then grab all 3 items in quick succession. Looting bugs does seem a bit slower though, as instead of just taking the bug, you harvest its essence and then let them go, which takes up a bit more time for the animation to finish. I find it as a useless change, as I find that Worlds Quick Gather is better. In terms of quality of life, besides the secret as we've already discussed it, I find various things better, but some things worse. I am neutral on the new cooking. I don't really like going into my tent every single time when I could just be sitting at a table. It's a small amount of time lost there. While it's not as bad as Monster Hunter 2 or Frontier, it's still a pointless change. I also miss having a cat chef, but that's a staple in every game. Now, I also have a bit of a negative point on the non-existent tracking of the monsters, but I'll rant about that at the end with my final thoughts as a Monster Hunter fan. Though, let's end on a good point. I love the more streamlined way they have made the crafting and upgrading. It's essentially the same UI as Monster Hunter World, but a lot of the bloat and excess of the menus have been cut away, so it's much cleaner than how it used to be. For an example, you could just go to the weapon tree, build from that tree, and you don't have to constantly back out and select the weapon branch you wish to upgrade. It does it all from the same menu, and it knows if you have the prerequisite or not, and it goes to the same with the armor. It's just all from the crafting menu, but that menu shows you if you own the item or not, and by selecting that item in the menu, you can upgrade it right there. No need to back out and find another menu within a menu, and yeah, I just love this change a lot. There are also now Artisan or Artisan or whatever it's called weapons and crafting, which reminds me a lot of the rusted ancient weapons from the 3rd generation of games, where you can piece together crap and upgrade it to make it very good weapons. The last thing is that there is no farm like in other entries. Instead, after you reach a certain point of the progression, you unlock the ability to have various tribes collect items for you out in the world, and depending on the location and season, some items will be easier to gather than others. It's good to plan on who will gather from where, like having some people gather honey, while others gather mushrooms. You can also trade with the tribes for resources, and not just for food for cooking. So gathering is faster, cooking is just okay, the armor crafting is great, the farm is changed to slave labor of the native population. I'm gonna give this section a 4 out of 5. So this one is a bit of a pickle. Myself and other people in the community have noticed that the monster fights seem way too easy. Now, before I wrote this review and was still playing the game, I assumed it would only be for low rank, as it is a way for new players to get into the game, with high rank being much harder. With the exception of maybe 3 or 4 monsters, it really isn't the case. Now, how I'm ranking the difficulty is how long it takes for me to kill the monsters and how often I need to heal. As a baseline, mind you, the majority of the monsters in other games I've fought, if I fight them with the current level of progression gear, a fight could take around 15 to 20 minutes. Until Wilds came out, I would say the easiest Monster Hunter was probably 4 or 4U, where the monsters took me about 10 minutes to kill with the current leveled gear. Meanwhile in Wilds, monsters are being down within 5 minutes or less, with the exception of high-ranked monsters and 2 of the low-ranked monsters. I have a few theories on why this is. One, of course, is the health pool of monsters is much lower. Another is that the secret mount, which brings you right to the monster from the start in a matter of seconds, not to mention sharpening and rebuffing on the go while following behind the monster running to the next zone. And lastly, the wound system, with focus mode, which basically is like free massive damage as the fight progresses, similar to blast weapons but without needing blast weapons. So not only is finding the monster removed, running after them is also removed to a degree, which reduces the time a lot. There is also less monsters in the base game than World, which already was low to begin with. Then when you do fight them, again with the exception of a few higher end monsters, they barely do any damage to you. I almost never use potions on most of the fights. Realistically, I might use 1 or 2 every so often, but you get the point. Also, it doesn't help that with the smaller health pool, the fights don't last long enough for you to see the full moveset. There were times where I would fight a monster for the 2nd or 3rd time and saw things that I didn't see on the first. Keep in mind, again, I am talking about the baseline level monsters as well. Once you unlock more content in high rank, you can find monsters that are rated to be stronger than the average baseline monster, and even weaker sometimes. Beyond that, you will have tempered monsters, so that is a way to optionally hunt stronger monsters. Tempered monsters also have a unique scarring to show that they are tempered. These scars can be opened up like the wounds and attacked for extra damage. The higher the level and tempered monsters are, do in fact feel a lot better to fight. Hell, even one nasty Balahara managed to cart me, though I equated that to me not paying attention. Which is one of the reasons why I think the baseline monsters being weaker is an issue for new players. If they get used to the easy monsters, the harder ones will catch them off guard. They need to learn the proper gameplay from the start. This, I remember, was one of the many arguments over giving players guard charms in the 3rd generation. Now, I fought every single monster solo before using the SOS system. I did not use the SOS until I was pretty much grinding levels and replaying quests in high rank. Having other players and NPCs will make fights even easier, which is why I fought every monster at least once or twice solo before using SOS for the purposes of grinding. For the SOS, if you are online, it will allow other players to hop in and play with you. If no one joins, then every minute or so will spawn in a bot to help you play, with real players replacing them if they join your quest. Bots are actually really smart in this game. Now, this isn't the first Monster Hunter game to incorporate NPC hunters, as Frontier does it very well, but I suppose it is the first mainline game to do it. They will aim for weak points, they will help heal you if they're able to, they know when large attacks are coming and try to dodge and even use the environment to aid in the fight. Even in the Jin Dahad fight, they will pull down the ice chunks to hide behind for the big attack that he does. And when a monster sleeps in their lair, they will wait for you to act first so they know if you want to trap or bomb. Even if a monster is awake, if they see a trap, they will run over and help guide the monster to it. While they are scripted very well to act like normal players and be smart about what they do, the only negative side is that because the NPC hunters are so useful, I've noticed a lack of players joining SOS hunts. Because if there is a quest that they need help with, they just summon the NPCs. Therefore, you don't have as many people looking through the player SOS calls to join. It is a double-edged sword if you ask me. Now, this next part will be my personal opinion and will not affect the score. In terms of the weapons, I only used 2 so far, the dual blades and the insect glaive, so I will give a quick mention about them. Also, as a side note, this is the first game that I've had damage numbers turned on. Even in World where they were introduced, I had them turned off because I'm used to not having them from older games. Now with the dual blades, I love them. I played them in Freedom Unite, Frontier, Rise, Cross, and World. They play very similar to Worlds, but do have some mechanic changes that I've noticed. One of them seemed to be more fluid. Even attacks that would normally lock you in place, there are moments that allow you to stop or turn your character, like when you use Demon Flurry and you can stop and turn your character halfway or just stop altogether in case the monster moves so your attack isn't wasted. One thing that is different is that there is a blue evasive mode now, so basically any weapon that has a block like the Greatsword or a weapon with a shield has the ability to clash with the monster. They do a perfect block. The dual swords, on the other hand, has a mode where if you perform a perfect dodge, your character will glow blue. They will move faster and attack in a flurry of slashes as they roll dodge out of the way of attacks. The only negative to this is that your character will refuse to climb up small ledges that you normally can, just step up on. I learned that this was a thing when fighting Rei Dao, and I needed to get up on a step in order to move out of the way of his attack, but my character refused to take that step, which was only knee-high, because of that blue evasive mode, and it made me die to his attack, so yeah, that was fun. Now then, with the insect glaive, I played it in World and in 4U. I was neutral about it in 4U, but I loved it in World. However, moving into Wilds, it feels worse in my opinion. The bug is a lot slower, some of the controls have been moved around, and now you need all 3 colors to use your stronger abilities. While you can be up in the air longer, the abilities have changed. So I don't really know the ability names, I'm going to try to describe them here, but when you're playing in World, there are a few abilities like the one that spins your staff horizontally at the monster, another that spins you down vertically, and another that stabs down. The stab down also will launch the bug to fight with you and put down various effects. In Wilds, the horizontal spinning will allow you to keep using it if you are near the monster, but by the time it's over, it pushes you higher so you can easily overshoot the monster and completely miss. The spin down doesn't seem to hit as many times as in World, and while I do like that the bug can hold 2 colors instead of just 1, it still takes a long time to gather the colors, which makes combat feel slow because you're just waiting around with your thumb up your ass until you get all 3 colors, instead of just the red one like in World. Having the other colors were nice to have for full damage, but at least you didn't need them in World to do your combos. Now, if you manage to strike a wound of a monster, the bug will gather all 3 colors for an instant upgrade, so that is a way to get them quickly and keep them a bit longer, though at the start of a fight it really isn't an option. I've had people tell me that it's better because you could see where you get each color on the monster, but that doesn't really matter because even if you know for a fact that you get red from the monster's head, the bug is so slow, by the time it gets to it, the monster has already turned around or moved or done something else, so you're gonna miss it either way. Now, I'm not going to abandon the insect glaive. I still like the weapon, I just don't understand why they changed it the way that they did, and because I'm so used to World's version of it now, it's taking me a while to get used to the new way of playing. So you see footage of me flailing around on the glaive, that's mostly because of what I just said, and that's why I'm using mostly dual blades. Now, my rating is not going to be on the weapons like I just said, but from the overall difficulty of the baseline monsters, with the fact that I feel that a lot of the aspects of hunting seem to have been either streamlined or removed, I'm going to rate this section a 4 out of 5. It's still good overall, and I am vastly enjoying the hunts. I just, have a couple of nitpicks here and there. So this is going to focus on the delivery method of the story and just the questing in general. There is a main story for low rank, and there's a story for high rank. Then you have some side quests. With low rank, I feel that the pacing is very weird. In older games, they used to have what we called key quests, where you were given a group of quests to do in any order, but once you did a few certain ones, you would get an urgent quest. World took that concept and streamlined it a bit, so you could do all of the optional quests if you wanted to, but they still had the key quests separated off so you could just do those and ignore the optional quests if you wanted to. You only really got a cutscene at the start of discovering a new zone, finding a new monster, and sometimes during key story moments. In Wilds, it's not like that at all. It's as linear as it gets. You only unlock the optional hunting quests after hunting the monsters for the first time, which means you need to wait until you get them in the story, which again is linear as fuck, and you can't even go into the wild, kill them, and unlock the quest. I tried to do that with the Balahara, as I killed him while still in rank 1, but I didn't unlock his quest until rank 3. Smaller monsters, you need to kill a few of them in the world in order to unlock their quest too. There are no gathering quests in the traditional sense. The only gathering quests I found were in high rank for people who say, get me 1 Vigor Wasp, or get me 1 Flash Bug, or 1 Chadacabra hide and such. For the story quest, the pacing is also off too. The next quest you could start will have either an automatic walk with the secret while there's exposition in the background, or maybe dinner with the locals, or a fight with a monster, and sometimes you can get at multiple fights back to back. Though besides the pacing issues, I do like all of the cutscenes. They are a bit more involved than World was. The absolute worst thing about this section is the multiplayer. You cannot do story missions with your friends at the same time. The only way to do this is for one of you to either finish before the other one and then replay it with your friend as they go through it, or one of the friends abandons their quest, goes back to the hub, rejoins their friend's quest, and with the amount of time that takes in combination with the fast kill times, you barely get to play together at all. You essentially are forced to play alone or suffer. So, for the delivery method, I'm going to rate this a 3 out of 5. It's mostly just the random pacing and the linearity that made me drop it a couple of points. This part will be non-spoiler, and I will have a spoiler section after this with a timestamp to skip if you don't want to watch that. So, without spoilers, I will say that the low-rank story itself is fine. It's not the worst thing ever, but if you were coming to Monster Hunter for the story, this is the wrong game for you. Regardless, when you compare it to other Monster Hunter games, it's one of the better ones. I like the cast, though I feel there are a bit too many characters in the spotlight. In World, it was you and the handler most most of the time, with other characters popping up when needed, so it was more rare than not. In Wilds, it's you, Gemma, Nata, and Alma, with the frequent sharing of the spotlight like Olivia, Eric, and oh crap, I forgot his name, Werner or something? Yeah, I just call him asshole, because he is one. I feel that we don't get enough time with each character because the spotlight is spread too thin between all of them. I do like what little we get from them, except Nada, fuck Nada. And when it comes to the high rank story, it's pretty much a repeat of a previous game with, of course, its own spin on it for the newer game. Something I would like to add is that it seems to have refined what the guild allows to be hunted in this entry. In older titles, it was always big monster go kill, with vague background knowledge on the guild needing to count every single kill to keep an eye on the environmental balance. In World, I thought it was worse because all they told you was that you were researching and studying. Yes, let's go slaughter every monster for science. Here, they make it a big point that the guild only authorizes you to hunt for specific reasons, being food, which is limited to certain monsters only, or an immediate threat protection. Most of the time when you find aggressive monsters that get too aggressive around humans, so they'll tell you to put them down for the safety of humans. But even then, there is one quest where one of the locals tells you to hunt a creature, just because they were in an area that they didn't want them, yet the monster itself was not really posing a threat. It was acting normal in its natural environment. So Alma tells you to capture it for relocation rather than killing it. I like that this detail has been refined a lot. One thing that I was worried about was the character being voice acted. This is the first time it ever happened, besides Rise, because in Rise it was really only for encounters and not really for cutscenes, and even then I kind of hated it with a passion. The characters sounded annoying, and not just from the voice actors but what they said as well. I just really wanted to turn that off so fast. And with that, I debated on if I wanted to mute my character or not for this game, but I will say that I am happy with the player character's lines. They are not spoken often, and when they do, they are neutral enough to still allow you to keep your character's personality to how you wish for them to act, without being too much out of character for your own roleplay. Though it is highly illegal for the Palicos to talk. They can only speak cat in my canon. I refuse to ever let them talk. With that being said, this section will get a 4.5 out of 5. I only reduced it a small point because the story is just fine. While the characters are all good, I wish we had more time with them. I hate Nada. There, I said it. He starts off fine, but as the low-rank story progresses, he not only gets worse and worse, but first let's start from the top. Low rank is pretty much the primary story of the game. It will be the world building and the main lore dump. While high rank has a story, it felt more like an add-on rather than a continuation. In low rank, you are told of a monster called Arkveld attacking villages, one of them being Nada's. It is not only your job to explore this land the guild has not been to, but also to return Nada to his home and find Arkveld. As you explore the various lands, you find Arkveld pop up like a Saturday morning villain to kill the big bad of each biome and absorb their powers. Then you learn that Arkveld is not a normal creature. It is an artificially created monster from an extinct species. He is basically Mewtwo. These artificial creatures are known as Guardians. They were all made by Wyverians in the days of an ancient city that they lived in called Wyveria. They don't eat and cannot breed. They are only for the protection of the city. I mentioned in the exploration that the ice biome kinda sucks. Well, that is because it's pretty much just the ruins of the city, at least the outskirts of it. Rather than a tundra like Hoarfrost Reach or any other games with snow biomes, it has a lot of floating debris and broken parts that are not traversable unless you have a secret. That is why I don't like it. Now, inside of Wyveria itself is its own biome, which glows like an elven city. You learn that this world has a type of arcane system called Wyverian milk, also known as Whelk, which can be in a liquid or crystallized solid form. The Guardians feed off of it directly, while the plant life and other environments use it as a source of nourishment. Without this source, what little life that there is in these lands would turn to sand and die like the desert biome. Not only that, the Whelk seems to have a ley line system, just like an arcane system in any other fantasy system. These lines connect to the other biomes and control the various weather functions for different reasons, which is why the weather can be strange in this land. However, something has, you could say, clogged up the flow of magic, but we'll get there in a moment. Back to Arkveld. Nada is annoying because he starts off wanting to find his family, and as you spar Arkveld a few times in the wild, he gets angry and revenge motivated, being a stupid kid and trying to rush in with a rock to take on this creature alone. It makes sense, but it gets worse. As they discover that Arkveld is a guardian, he starts to feel bad for the monster, which again, it makes sense, as Arkveld has developed enough sentience that it rejects its artificial birth and starts to develop behaviors that it should not have as a guardian, like eating. The group thinks that maybe they could help Arkveld, as all it wants is to become a real monster like Pinocchio. Only things turn dark. With rejecting your programming and making choices for yourself, Arkveld chooses to slaughter. You find Arkveld in a chamber with blood and gore of other guardians, as it was slaughtering them all. This frightens the group as they realize this is very dangerous. Nada, being the dumbass little kid he is, wants to let Arkveld live because he chose for himself. Like, kid, come on, are you fucking insane right now? This thing just slaughtered a ton of monsters in cold blood in a destructive nature, and slayed apex monsters in other biomes. You saw what it did to your village, and you want that and worse to happen to other cities as well? It needs to be put down. So, Alma understands that while Arkveld has a tragic backstory, she gives you, the hunter, the order to slay Arkveld to the dismay of Nada. This, of course, was an amazing fight, but I'll talk about that at the end, because now, after Arkveld, they need to research the source of the Whelk, where they find what the locals call the Dragon Torch. Not only that, they find the source of the Clog, as it were, a massive creature within, absorbing its power. As you ask what it is, you find out that the Wyverians did more than just clone monsters. This one in particular is an amalgamated chimera made with the DNA of multiple monsters, and not just any random monster. Xochitl is made with the blood of black dragons. It was the last defense mechanism during a time of war, and as the story of Hubris has always told us, this ended badly and led to the fall of the Empire. Now, this monster is absorbing raw power. You need to slay it outright or cut off the source. But by doing that, you cut off the source of the land, which will end the way of life for everyone. Nada just so happens to have a MacGuffin item that can stop the Dragon Torch permanently, and he almost did, though your hunter stops him and decides to slay the monster. This again was an amazing fight, and I'm sad you cannot replay it. Hopefully they will let us take it on again later as an optional quest. Now, as for high rank, it is a recycle of Monster Hunter 4, the Frenzy virus breaks out, and you find out that it's Gore Magala. That's pretty much it, besides a few additions to the post-low rank story, like finding out the land is more lush and thriving now that Xochitl is gone and not clogging up the ley lines. This also allows for monsters that once lived here to return, which means you have unlocked new monsters to fight, or in the case of the first one, a returning monster. After Gore Magala, there is one additional mini plot point for you to complete. And that's pretty much it until the content updates that are coming out. That's going to be the end of the spoiler section. Now you know why I rated the story as such. I hate Nada, and while I think that the story is nothing really to write home about, it's fine for what it is. So let's continue on with the last few sections. Okay, so I've pretty much covered a lot of what would go in this section already, so let me breeze through those to remind you, and I'll say one more thing before I rate the endgame. So as of right now, high rank is the endgame. Once you unlock it, you unlock side quests, side stories, the dynamic weather system, and seasons. You also unlock the tribe gathering and trade systems. Technically, you can trade in low rank, but Nada makes it more available from a menu in high rank. Then you have various ranks of monsters, tempered monsters, and now there's nothing wrong with that content in the endgame, but what my issue is that there is a lack of content in the base game. When you look at older games and their base form, no DLCs or content updates, there is a lot less here than there were in older games. There are no arena quests, there is no gathering hub, there is no player housing. With player housing, all of the Monster Hunter games have had a house system, even if it was little to no customization options, and with Monster Hunter World you had 3 houses that you could put the pets that you captured all around the house. The Iceborne update gave you the 4th house that was fully customizable. Here, there really isn't any house, just tents. Now, you could say that that means that we will build up to one in the story since we plan on staying here longer for further investigations, but I really think that's BS. Instead, they could have had it where it unlocked in high rank as a reward for helping the locals and the various tribes, with each one offering you a different home in the various towns that you could choose from and customize with your pets and furniture. I'm sure it'll come later on, but this should be in the base game. I also feel that there is less incentive to capture endemic life right now. Even though it was optional world, I felt it was a bit more thought out and fun. This time around, it doesn't quite feel the same. Bounties are back, but they are RNG. You don't get to choose which one you want to do, and investigations are built into the overmap system. As for the hunter-gathering hub, it is confirmed to be in the first content update, but it really should have been in the base game like all the other Monster Hunter games. To me, missing things that are in the base game of every other Monster Hunter game means that they had to cut a lot of content from the launch to be drip-fed in later. That is not a good thing, especially for the gaming industry in general. This has been a point of contention for gamers for years now. Regardless, the lack of content of the base game compared to older titles at their base form, I'm gonna have to rate this a 3 out of 5. For what is available, it is fun and fine, but it needs more. The amount of players active in this game is still going quite strong. Beyond that, the content pipeline is loaded with new stuff for us, just from the past knowledge of how World was treated and the fact that they've already announced the first 2 updates and when they will drop, at least roughly, which seems to be on an every other month basis, roughly. So for that, I'm just gonna go ahead and give this section a 5 out of 5. Alright, here it is, the elephant in the room. So, I'm not anyone who is an uber tech nerd, but from what I've heard others say, there is a combination of reasons why this game runs so bad, from flat out optimizations to supposed typos in the coding, and other reasons, issues of which adjusting your settings will not help, especially anyone who doesn't have the highest level of PC specs. With my, what I like to call, above average rig of a 3050 and 11th gen processor, I should be able to run this game on at least high settings. However, even if I put it all on low settings, which look atrocious, I still have frame issues and graphical bugs, so I just really set it to high and deal with the issues since I get them anyway. My friends have had plenty of issues playing as well, and their graphics cards are much better than mine with much higher built-in RAM. Issues include inconsistent frame rates, which range from 20 to 50 frames. I sat mostly between 30 and 40 with spikes up and down for different reasons. Now, I'm not someone who cares much about frame rate unless it's, below 20. I grew up playing Nintendo systems, which were always at 30 FPS, so 30 to 40 doesn't bother me. What does bother me is the fact that the graphics always seem extremely fuzzy, and this is not a system issue. I've seen gameplay from people who have had the highest settings run at perfect 60 or more frames, and even then there's just a weird look to the textures that make them look really fuzzy, more so than World ever was, at least to me. It also doesn't help that for some reason, this game seems to have an overabundance of volumetric fog and filters which makes the colors look weird and washed out. Though those are not bugs, they're just pet peeves of mine. World wasn't perfect either, hell it had a lot of bloom to it, but I like the look of World far more than Wilds because it didn't have nearly as much as those washed out color filters and the models don't seem nearly as blurred. And of course, I do get the infamous polygon monsters, and it only seems to look that way after a fresh reload, or I load into a new zone. It will go away within a minute or so, but graphical bugs like that, while yes, unacceptable, they don't bother me again as well because I find them funny. And lastly for this section, while this didn't happen often, I did get audio issues at times, from random cutting out to delay of voice lines in scenes amongst the various cutscenes that you would watch. Overall, I'm gonna give this section a 2 out of 5. It would have been a 1 for the unacceptable nature of how unoptimized this game is at launch. However, the game for me at least was playable and I never once crashed, and the random frame drops never really hindered my fighting abilities. So I'll give it a little bit of a point for that, but yeah, 2 out of 5. by my order, I rate this game a 4 out of 5. I would say that this isn't my favorite Monster Hunter game for a few reasons, but it's still a very good game, and I'm still having a lot of fun playing it, hunting with my friends, and I can't wait to see what other monsters they add in the updates. Add lag Chris. Now, the main review is over. I am going to go into a segment where I talk about the game as a fan and give small reviews of the monster fights. This next section is going to be completely my opinion and is not going to affect the score, as the score has already been rated. I am going to talk freely here as a fan of Monster Hunter for over a decade. While I have enjoyed this game, I feel there are way too many systems that have been watered down, reduced, or removed that take away from the sense of actually hunting the monsters. Back when World came out, I was worried that this would happen. However, to my surprise and liking, World in fact kept the hunting aspects and the feel of Monster Hunter while improving systems that just didn't need to be there, and I was completely okay with not having breakable bug nets or pickaxes. I was okay with ore that you gathered being sent straight to your box, and your box being infinite in size. You still need to gather and craft items until much later in the game, where you could just kind of buy items that you need, like traps and demon drugs. You still needed to look for the monsters out in the world and hunt them down. Now, I didn't quite like the scout flies, and I wish there could have been an option to turn them off, as the tracks that you find would have been enough. The tracks all being unique to the monster also helped. You can look at the tracks and know exactly what monster it was, and even then, only after you hunt the monster many times over will it eventually unlock the ability to see it on the map from the start, which is fine. So in general, World kept the feel of hunting monsters while also improving systems and giving quality of life in just the right spots. Wilds, meanwhile, you no longer track the monsters, they are already there on the map, and the secret mount just takes you right there. The sense of exploration is also diminished because of the speedy travel. Now you can, just again, not use the mounts, but there are times that they are absolutely required, like in the Ice Shard Cliffs, because it is all floating rubble. You need the mount in order to traverse the terrain, as well as some parts of, like, say, the forest. I also don't like how the game does not really open up until high rank. All of the major systems are limited to or non-existent in low rank. On top of that, the story of low rank is so linear, you feel that you just need to keep doing it to get it over with and actually unlock the real game. Now, I could be wrong about this next one, but from my experience, I have not seen any gathering quests. No egg collection, no mushroom gathering, nothing. Even though they were completely optional in Worlds, they were still there for old time's sake in case you wanted to do them, but they're completely gone here. So yeah, that's my rant and my thoughts on Monster Hunter Wilds. Again, I am still enjoying this game. I like it. I don't like how it's kind of taking a turn from what Monster Hunter feels like, and it's trying to focus solely on just hunting the monsters, which is the big draw of the game, but it's not the full thing. You're focusing on the steak and not the potatoes, with the dessert being later on in other content updates rather than in the baseline game. So yeah, that's my little bit of a rant of why it's not my favorite Monster Hunter game, but it is going to be in my top 5 games, actually no, my top 3 games of Monster Hunter as a series. Now then, I'm going to give my opinions on the various fights. I will be talking about story spoiler fights, so be wary of that. And because there are so many, these will be quick to breeze through them. I will go in order of when you see them in the game. So, first things first. Chupacabra. I feel that this monster is too quick to kill even in high rank. Supposedly he licks his arms and covers them in rocks as a form of defense and attack, but I never once noticed a difference in his fighting stance because I just kill him way too fast and he's too easy. Cumitress. I like this fire chicken and his flint tail, causing a wave of fire as he swings it, and while I wish it was a bit stronger, he was still fun and a welcomed addition. Lalabarina is one of the most unique monsters with animations that I've not seen in any other spider monster in this series. She has AoE paralysis abilities and is quick, yet fluid in her movements. She is like a ballerina and can be tricky at times. Congalala is a returning monster who is a monkey that eats mushrooms and gains attributes from them like fire breath. They also fart on you, which prevents healing. It's annoying but very easy, which always was this fight, even in older games. He retains pretty much his same moveset, and I didn't really notice anything new from him other than, more fluid animations. Balahara is one of my favorite monsters who happens to be a water-typed monster in a desert. I love his look and his armor and his unique moves that can alter the terrain, as well as climb up various areas to try to gain advantages against you, but you can also turn them against him easily. So yeah, I think he is in my top 5 monsters of this game. Doshiguma is a big bear monster that is intimidating by his hulking appearance. He has no element but uses his wild swings and hits like a truck. Hopefully they use his model and bring back a Zeros one day. I need my bear boy back. Either way, Dosha is an okay fight but a bit bland. Uthduna is a whale that has fins made of water and acts like shields. They take less damage until you break their frills, and then you can hit them at full force. I do really like how they influence the water and cause waves that can push and pull the player around. It is very immersive, and I like this fight a lot. Rompopolo is an ugly-ass mosquito that inflates with gas. They use their stinger on their tail to blow gas into the tar and cause it to explode in an AoE attack. He is okay as a boss, but not terrible. He's not my favorite either. Ray Dao is a really fun fight, and is one of the few monsters in high rank to take me a while to kill. He is a thunderbird with the most unique sounds and a railgun head that shoots lightning attacks from his head. I really like this fight, especially in his arena, which is almost electrified. You can use the stalactites hanging above him to nullify the ground area and disperse the lightning on the floor. Either way, I really like this fight and give it a thumbs up. Nersilia is a returning monster. She's kind of boring in my opinion. They were not really memorable from the 4th generation and not really here too. They web you, they stun you, they chomp you, and that's pretty much it. Hirabami is my least favorite of this game. While not as bad as Legiana, they always stay in the air and swipe you with their tail. They are also super slow, as you could have a pack of them on you while hunting something else and you wouldn't even notice or care. Big thumbs down in my opinion. Arjarkakin, I think that's how you say it, is an angry fire monkey that uses blast damage and fire. They can heat up and melt the surrounding areas in an AoE attack, even if you are not in the fire biome. They can also climb and use the terrain. It is an okay fight overall, but not that memorable. New Udra is a brand new octopus monster. This is the introduction of the new type of monster. I was highly impressed. He is also another monster to make me last more than 10 minutes fighting while in high rank, but that is because I was wearing the Jin Dahad armor at the time, so not a smart move on my part. Every single tentacle can be severed. The tentacles can strike you while the monster isn't facing you, but you are given a small telegraph to know when it is about to strike. By the way it moves and attacks, it is completely unique, and I love this fight. Alright, so the Guardians are really not that impressive at all with any of the Guardians really, except for maybe Arkveld. Guardian Doshiguma is the same as normal Doshiguma, but it uses Welk-like arcane boosts that can use its attacks to explode the crystallized Welk in the areas, causing massive AoE damage. Even then, it is weak to every single element besides Dragon, and Guardian Rathalos is just a normal Rathalos, but with the same elements as the other Guardians. Jindahad is also in my top 3 favorite monsters. I love the design, I love how large it is, I love his ice element, and how as a dual sword user, you can go down its back and break pieces off like Radoban in World. His arena is useful too, as you could pull down rubble on its head for extra damage, but also to protect you against his one-hit kill ability similar to Behemoth and Safi'jiiva. This fight also takes me around 15 to 20 minutes to kill and has 4 phases, which are mostly unique as the 3rd and 4th phases are still identical, but it is an overall fun fight. Just as with the other Guardians, Guardian Odogaron, or rather Ebony Odogaron, is more aggressive and uses the Whelk to explode things in your face. He does also use the bleed debuff, and if you use rations, you can cure them since there is no Astera Jerky. Overall, he's really quick, but if you're used to the Odogaron fight from World, he is not that hard at all. Zuwu. While it was unexpected to see him as he wasn't in any trailers, he is a bit weird to fight. He may be an octopus like New Udra, but his moves in fight are completely different. He uses his tentacles like swords and can throw things like ninja stars. I do like how he goes into the small cracks in the wall and fights like an octopus. Overall, he is a mid-fight, but a welcomed one. Guardian Arkveld is one of the 2 only fights in low rank that was worth a damn. He gave just enough challenge so I wasn't sleeping through half of the fight. That being said, I didn't really cart on him once, but I love how aggressive he is, making him stand out from the other Guardians, and he's just overall really aggressive and fun to fight, especially for a low rank monster. Zoshia. Absolutely amazing fight that I wish we could replay as an optional quest. Even if it is evented like other elders in World, he is chaotic from phase 1 with his crystal form, to his second phase where he uses fire and inferno, to his last phase where he uses red lightning and elemental shifting, all reminiscent of Fatalis, Gormagala, and Elatrian. Overall, great fight for an Elder Dragon of this game. Guardian Fulgur Anjanath is just like the other Guardians. He is also hyper aggressive and uses a lot of lightning AoE. Ian Cuckoo, once one of the easiest creatures for beginners, now the easiest monster in high rank. At least my boy is moving up. He can spit fire and try to tackle and peck at you. I like his fight as it reminds me of the simple days of older games, but he is refined. Gypsaros is also a returning monster. This rubber boy is back and still plays possum, which will instant cart you if you're not careful. He can also flash you. Not my favorite monster, but at least he's not Kazu. Rathian and Rathalos are mostly the same, while Rathian poisons more, uses her tail more, and is on the ground more. Her fight is mostly copy and paste from World, and she is mostly ignorable for the most part, while Rathalos is in the air more often and uses more fire, and is faster. They are mostly the same from other games as well, though I have noticed that they have some new moves, though it could be just the fluidity of the animations as I've noticed in other monsters. But the best part is that Rathalos finally, after 15 years, has his theme song back. It is the same theme song from the first iteration of the game, which is basically Fatalis' theme, just without the vocals. But good on him, he's finally got his theme back. Gravios is a big round rock boy from the first game. This time around he doesn't seem to bounce me every swing like he did in Frontier. That was terrible, but he is still tanky. He can roll on the ground and send out a fire like dust. Not to mention he shoop-de-whoops a laser beam. Overall he is slow, so he is easy to avoid, but he can hit you hard if you are the slow one. Blanconga is the same monkey from Generation 2. He was way too easy in my opinion. Even his frenzied version in the Gormagala quest, I killed him in under 5 minutes. His moves are similar to Rajang's but tuned down a lot. He can snowball you and dig underground to pop up like Diablos. Overall, I think he was too easy, but I still like him as a creature. Gore Magala. I'll be honest, while I did fight him in the 4th generation of games, he was not really memorable at all, at least to me. Before playing Wilds, I couldn't tell you what Gore did because I just don't remember his fight at all, other than he gives you the Frenzy virus. Playing him again here, he is still fairly easy. While he can hit you like a truck if he manages to snag you, you can avoid his attacks easily. I just roll under him and go past most of his frontal attacks. And the Frenzy virus, which promotes aggressive gameplay, doesn't really affect me because I am dual blades mostly, so I play aggressively anyway. Yeah, so I think his fight is not really that memorable. The only thing that makes him memorable is the fact that he is the emo kid on the block. At least with this Elder Dragon, you can fight him multiple times, and even find him in the wild after his quest. So for people who have never played the 4th gen, we veteran hunters pretty much know that this isn't the end for Gore. Just wait for Shigaru. Arkveld. The final Arkveld fight I found to be a bit harder than Gore, though he does play slightly different to his Guardian form, and is still just as chaotic. Also, this pretty much confirms that there are more than one Arkvelds that were created, as they subtly hint that this one is different than the one that we kill, and the one that attacked Nada's home. And yes, I still hate Nada after this quest. He is way too flip-floppy in his decisions and whiny. Either way, I do enjoy Arkveld's fight a lot. However, I didn't really see a point to make us fight him again as the final boss of the base game. It feels a bit too much repeat, and I wish they would have just left it at the Gore Magala fight while introducing a normal Arkveld earlier on, but I still stand by my statement that the high rank felt like an afterthought in terms of the story. But that's pretty much it, my quickie thoughts on the new game and the monsters. Over on my brand new channel for gameplay only, I'm going to be posting a small clip of myself and my friend discussing who we think is better, the Handler or Alma, so go check that out. I'm going to be posting more gameplay videos over there to not clog up this channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. And that is the end of this video. If you liked my review, please subscribe to this channel as I will be making more in-depth reviews of open-world, sandbox survival RPG games, including those that no one ever talks about from the deepest, darkest depths of Steam. Some games that even look like the muck at the bottom of my pond. If you have any suggestions for what game to do next, please comment below and like this video. Florida Gator Man out.